Hey guys, Super Rugby Pacific round 14 is coming up this weekend. In this video, I'm taking a look at the team sheet, seeing who's in, who's out, and making my predictions about how these games will play out and what the final margins might be. Coming up first on Friday night, we have the Hurricanes versus the Highlanders in Wellington. Home game for the Canes. Good conditions expected here as well. And the big news for the Canes this week is that Brett Cameron is back. He's on the bench, but he is back. And this is pretty big news because 10's been a real soft spot for the Hurricanes this year. All their 10s have been injured. Ruben Love's been doing a great job of filling in recently, and he starts there for this game as well. Brett Cameron will probably replace him earlier on. Other thing of note in this lineup is that Balin Sullivan, he gets a start again at 14. He had to fill in the Canes last game because Kenny Naholo got injured. He ended up scoring 4 tries even though he's not a natural winger. He generally plays at 13, so he gets another shot there, even though Finianganofo, the 7-star, is on the bench, although he may end up replacing him later. And for the Highlanders, big news for them is probably that Jonah Nareke is back after a bit of a layoff, as well as Tanielu Talia in the 13 jersey. Thomas Umaga-Jensen's been doing a pretty good job in his absence, but it's still a boon for them to have him back. And as for how this game's gonna go, I mean, the Hurricanes, ever since that Brumbies game, they looked really good. They've gone strength to strength. The return of Riley Higgins and Billy Proctor, and even putting Ruben Love at 10, it's just made them look really ruthless, injected a lot of pace into their attack. They proved it when they took on the Chiefs as well, took them down in Wellington, putting on a pretty good score against them in the end. And with the Highlanders, I mean, they started the season looking pretty decent, but things just have not really improved for them at all. They're really struggling in every game they play, and I expect the Hurricanes could put a pretty decent score on them here in Wellington. So I'm going to say the Canes take this game probably by 20 points, possibly by more. Coming up straight after that game, we have the Crusaders versus the Waratahs in Sydney. Low chance of rain for this game, but nothing too drastic forecast at the moment. And for the Waratahs, I mean, the big news for them is that Suali'i is out. We saw him take that knock last week. It looked really bad. So apparently, and I don't know if this is true, I heard he's out for the season. If that's the case, that's a massive blow for the Tars. In his place, Andrew Callaway gets the 15 jersey. Other than that, looking like a pretty similar lineup for them to what we've seen before. Going on to the Crusaders, something of note here is that George Bell is back. He's on the bench in the hooker position. Really interested to see George Bell this game because we have not seen him play at all since last year, where he was part of probably the worst Crusaders lineup I've ever seen in my entire life. He also got picked for the All Blacks. He got picked for every single All Black squad, but I don't believe we saw him play a single minute. And this year, the Crusaders, they're obviously much improved, so I'm really interested to see how George Bell goes in a proper functioning Crusaders forward pack and get to see what the All Black coaches really see in him, because they kept selecting him. They obviously saw something there. I want to see what it is. Otherwise, for the Crusaders, though, this is a bit of a depleted lineup. They've lost a lot of big names. There is no Scott Barrett. There is no Cody Taylor. No Will Jordan. He took that knee injury last week, and apparently he will be back around playoffs time, so that's good news for them. Johnny McNichol will be filling in his spot in the 15 jersey. Interestingly, I thought that Shea Fihaki would probably get that spot and they'd bring in a winger, but no, Johnny McNichol, he goes straight in there. Haven't seen much rugby out of him this year either, so yeah, quite a depleted Crusaders lineup, but Honestly, these teams, they kind of are on two different levels this year. Crusaders are top of the table and deservedly so. Waratahs, they've been struggling. They're probably not going to make it, but they have been very strong at home. They've got a couple of upsets there, beat the Chiefs, beat the Brumbies. And look, funnily enough, if you were watching last year, the Waratahs, they only won 2 games all season. Both of those games were against the Crusaders. So, you know, you take those factors together, it could happen again. I mean, the Crusaders, they have slipped up this year a couple of times. We saw them lose to Moana at home in Christchurch. So I'm not completely writing the Waratahs off here. And look, if they do win, I mean, it's going to be confirmed. It's a curse, Crusaders against the Waratahs. But I don't believe in curses. I'm not superstitious. So yeah, I think the Crusaders still have enough class to bring them home in this game, and probably by a decent margin. So I'm going to say Crusaders by 12 points. Then on the Saturday afternoon, we have the Fijian Drua taking on the Western Force in Lautoka. Looks like it's going to be pretty good conditions for this game as well, which is always nice at this time of year in Fiji. Big news for the Drua is that Wanga is back. Also Yosefo Masi as well. He's a pretty big name for them. And for the Force, they've actually rested a few guys. They haven't taken them on tour. There's no Harry Potter, no Nick White, no Hamish Stewart. We also saw Carlo Tizzano. He was a late scratch right before last week's game against the Brumbies. He has not recovered, it seems, so Kane Koteka has taken his place in the 7 jerseys. So yeah, missing a lot of big names here at the Force. Also, Ben Donaldson's on the bench. They are starting this new halves pairing. We've got Alex Harford in the 10 jersey. I don't believe we've seen him play at all this year. He is actually a New Zealand player. I believe he's out of the Canterbury regional program, although I have seen him playing for Auckland in the NPC, so not sure what the story is there, but I'm interested to see how he goes. Pasatoa's also come back for the Force as well, so it's not all bad news. That's a bit of a boost for them, and he will add some firepower to the back line as well. And as for how this game's going to go, I mean, this is probably the trickiest one to predict all weekend for me. When these teams played earlier in the season over in Perth, the Force absolutely blasted the Drua. I believe they scored over 50 points, which is probably the highest single score they've ever scored in Super Rugby, to be honest. And a lot of those tries actually came from the maul as well. I believe Nick Dolly ended up with 3 maul tries that game. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we're not in Perth this time. We are in Lautoka. Very different location. And the Drua, historically, they've always been much better at home. We have seen a couple of teams go over there and slip up, like the Queensland Reds. They rested a few guys. Sorry, not the Reds, the Waratahs. Rested a few forwards and ended up paying the price. Force are kind of doing the same thing here, so I think that kind of even things out, to be honest. I think the Drua, they'll obviously go a lot better this time than they did in Perth, but yeah, it's still really unpredictable. I suspect because conditions are good, this could actually be just a very tight, very high scoring game. Both these teams have conceded the most tries out of anybody for the whole competition, over 40 tries each. And I have a feeling that the Force could get their maul going here in this game. I mean, they've been using it all year, and the Drua, their maul defense has actually been a little bit soft. So yeah, that could be a factor that I think makes the difference in the end and keeps the Force in the game, if not takes it for them. So, but you just never know with the Drua, especially at home, right? And in good conditions. Like they're going to throw the ball around, and it's going to work out a lot of the time just because the Force aren't that great on defense. So yeah, this should be a fun game. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm going to say it'll be close. I'm going to say being Drua by 5 points, 1-score game, but honestly, like, the bookies have this game pretty lopsided in the favor of the Drua, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Force take this game. I think this will be a close game. Then on Saturday night, we have Moana Pacifica versus the Blues. Home game for Moana at North Harbour Stadium, but honestly, I mean, this is just as much a home game for the Blues as well. I don't think there's going to be much home advantage here either way. Conditions also look pretty good at the moment for Saturday in Auckland as well, which is nice this time of year. And for Moana, I mean, obviously they've just coming off a bye, but their lineup looks pretty similar to what they had in that Highlanders game. Pellegrini's come back in at 10. They've also brought in Feliti Saitaufa'o into the tight head position. If you remember that guy, he had that massive game against the Waratahs, scoring 2 or 3 tries, so it's good to see him back. And for the Blues, big news here, probably that Caleb Clark is back. He's been out for quite a few weeks now, so it's nice to see him back in the mix. AJ Lamb, he's been filling in on the wing. He gets pushed out to 14 this week, and Cole Forbes goes to the bench instead. In the forwards, there's a bit of shuffling around. Segner got injured last week and he hasn't recovered, so Choke gets a start, and the Blues, they're going to have 2 7s in the starting positions. And as for how this game's going to go, I mean, both of these teams are in contention to scrape into the top 6. Moana, they have a really tough run home. I believe they play the Canes and the Chiefs after this, and at least one of those games is an away game. They pretty much have to win all of them, but the win here against the Blues is the most important one, because both Moana and the Blues, they're competing for that sort of 6th spot on the table. So this is the game they should be targeting to win. Both teams should be throwing everything at it, Moana especially. And yeah, people are kind of hyping this game up, saying that it's going to be a big battle and a close game. And with what's on the line, like, yeah, it will be a battle. Both teams will throw everything at it. But these teams played not too long ago. They played about a month ago. And yeah, the Blues, they really were able to just force their will on Moana. They were able to play their game where they just grind with their forwards up front and just control the game and control everything. And Moana, they really weren't able to do a lot about it. And I don't see much reason why we won't see the same thing happen again this time, right? Like, everybody knows how the Blues want to play, what they're going to do each week. And yeah, all you have to do is just muscle up front, bring the physicality on defense, get low and just win those collisions. And then, yeah, the Blues just kind of crumble in the face again in that slow ruck ball and they get turned over. But Moana, they weren't really able to bring it last time. And if they couldn't bring it last time, I don't know if they can bring it this time either, to be honest. I think Pellegrini being at 10 will help them this time around. They did have Garden Bishop starting at 10 for that last game, but I think Pellegrini does bring a better kicking game, which might be the key to beating the Blues. If they can outkick the Blues, win the kick battle, just turn that pack around and just kind of nullify that a bit, that's probably their best chance to victory. But that hasn't been their style of play this year. That hasn't been a strength of theirs. So yeah, I really just don't see it happening for Moana. And I think the Blues, they'll take it again, and probably pretty comfortably in the end. I'm going to say by 13 points. And finally, on the Saturday night, we have the Brumbies versus the Reds at GIO Stadium in Canberra. Home game for the Brumbies. Conditions at the moment look like they are going to be perfect as well. And for the Brumbies, big news probably that Billy Pollard is back. Declan Meredith also starting. If you were watching last week, Lolosio, he just had a really bad looking injury. He got stretchered off. It was a spinal injury apparently, but I've heard since then that it's not as bad as it looked, and he probably will return in the not too distant future, so that is great to hear. And for the Reds, no Tommy Liner for them. Harry McLaughlin-Phillips gets the start, and no Salakai Lotu either. Ryan Smith comes in, but between Canham and Smith, you still have a really strong locking pair there, so not losing too much. And on the positive front, Hunter Paisami makes a return, so that's a bit of a boon for them, pairing with Dalgunu in the midfield. And the last time these two teams met, it was actually in Brisbane, and the Brumbies came from behind. They're about 14-0 down, and they came all the way back and ended up beating the Reds by about 13 points, and that was at Suncorp, so it's hard to imagine that the Brumbies can't at least match that feat at home on their own territory at GIO. Conditions will be good, which will probably help the Reds a little bit. The last time they played, it was in the wet, and yeah, I think that favors the Brumbies a bit with that bigger forward pack, but yeah, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference, I don't think. I mean, the Brumbies in recent weeks, like the last month, they've actually started to look a lot more lethal in their backs as well. And yeah, they've actually kind of impressed me. They're also in range to take the #1 spot in the competition, so they still have a lot to play for every single match, because to be a serious chance to win this competition, I think the Brumbies, they do need to take that top spot. They need to get home games all the way through the playoffs to the finals. I think they absolutely need that. So yeah, they should have their tails up, and they should really be going for it this game. I think they will. I think they'll come through in the end, and I'm going to say the Brumbies take it, and probably by about 14 points. Anyway guys, that'll do it from me. Let me know what your predictions are, especially if they differ. Let me know how you think that Drua versus Force game is going to go. Quite interested in that. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one.